right. Good evening and welcome to Health Check. This is your live medical show for all matters health and wellness. Well, today we have a very interesting topic to discuss, and it's all about suicide, overcoming it, prevention of the same. And of course, globally, this is something that is affecting both the youth and also the older people. And when we consider the life challenges, sometimes depression and hopelessness can sometimes lead to suicidal thoughts. But today on Health Check, we're here to give you hope. We are here to tell you that it is possible to overcome some of these things. And of course, our conversation will be steered with the help of two amazing gentlemen who are with me. We have Isaac and we also have Moffat, who I'll give a chance to introduce themselves later on so that we get to know the many hats that they wear because it's a lot. But anyway, you can definitely share the link. Tell a friend to tell a friend because this will be a transformational episode right here on Health Check. So you can also send in your questions, you can send in your concerns, your comments, your compliments. You can send them on WhatsApp on 0708 222 and of course on our SMS line 20933. And of course we are also live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, so you can share the link and definitely help someone be part of this amazing episode today. So karibuni sana gentlemen.
Thank you.
Habari zenu?
Mzuri sana.
Pia mimi niko salama, but we were talking about the color coordination today.
Yeah, I think you seems to be the only person who never received the memo.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But how would they know I'm the presenter?
There must be a distinction. Yeah?
There should be a distinction, definitely. But maybe you two can introduce yourselves. You can let us know, what do you do?
Thank you so much, Beatrice. My name is Moffat.
Yeah.
I am a counselor psychologist and also a marriage and family therapist. I am also an author.
Okay.
I've authored a book called Breaking Transgenerational Family Chains, and also another one that is about to be launched called Touring the Heart of Your Teenager. I am also a family man, married. I am also currently serving as the current CEO of the Kenya Counseling and Psychological Association. I am also a teacher. I teach whenever I get an opportunity.
Yeah.
For some time, I've been teaching at Park Pan-Africa Christian University. So, and it's a pleasure being here with you tonight.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. As I said, you have many hats.
Asante sana.
Let's go to Isaac. Habari yako?
Niko salama. Thank you so much, Beatrice, for having me.
Yeah.
So my name is Isaac Kamau, and I'm a family man as well. I have a wife
Yeah.
and 6 children. 2 are available, 4 are still on the way coming.
Oh,
Yeah, 6.
okay.
Yeah, so
You'll tell me the dynamics.
the
of-
dynamics. Yeah.
You are still up.
Yeah, so I'm a counselor. I'm a counseling psychologist.
Okay.
But I'm also an ICT personnel. So I'll explain later how ICT and psychology are coming together. Yeah, it's because of the book I wrote about the deception behind suicide, because I was there. And that's how I transformed and became a psychologist, because I wanted to provide help for myself and other people as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do businesses in IT. Then God also channeled me into the area of psychology as well. So I'm following His will and His purpose to do as He leads.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think what I hear from even your own story, we're about to get to the nitty gritties of it. But I love that you've used your scars to heal others.
Yes.
Which
yes.
is really, really good. And
yes,
it's part of ministry.
Yeah.
So maybe you can, let us in on your story, and especially just to understand what was that last blow that, led to you getting to the suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, I was doing business. It was around year 2013. So I started working at around 2011, and I did business, and I was very successful. By 2013, I had bought cars,
Mm.
properties, and the likes. And as I was doing the businesses, I lost a lot of money doing the tenders. I was doing tenders, and I lost a lot of money.
Mm.
And I sank into a state of stress that I didn't even know what it is. And at 2014, I married, and I was still struggling and suffering. But like a time has come when I have to marry, and so the relationship wasn't also working.
Mm.
So I was broke. I don't have money. I usually say I was broke until broke people are encouraged when they saw me. Because you've ever been in a bad situation, but you find another one in a worse situation. Yeah. And the difference between when I had and when I didn't have
Mm.
was just too much. Yeah. The distinction was way too much. I
Mm.
remember one day my mom called me to how comes you've not sent me something lately? Then I'm like, she doesn't have an idea that she's the one who's supposed to be supporting me. Yeah? I need to go back home.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that song that says Anarudi Ocha. I was like, I'm supposed to go back to Ushago
Yeah.
because things are worse and I don't have food.
Mm-hmm.
The banks they came and auctioned the two vehicles I had and almost everything that I had, and I sold everything. I don't have food to eat. I didn't have money. I was pretending to other people that I'm doing well
Mm.
because I was doing well.
Yeah.
But the reality is that I'm doing very, very badly. And I was like, how will this end? And I remember one day I borrowed a friend money. I wanted to, buy food, and he really told me off. He told me, go to Mshwari, go to Mkopa, don't borrow money. That's a bad habit.
Wow.
And around the same time, I also remember there's a friend who bought a V8. Yeah, you can imagine when you don't have food, then your friend buys a V8,
Ooh.
and they can't even give you 500 shillings to
Mm.
probably buy a
Yeah.
maize for example. Yeah,
Mm.
and I could not bear that. It was too much, and I felt this thing should come to an end. Because you see, I don't have money, I don't have friends. I stopped going to church, and actually, the church guys judged me because I don't go to church anymore. I think they thought I had backslidden,
Yeah.
but I don't. I was saved. I was saved. I used to go to school missions and the likes. So one day, an idea came that I can kill myself.
Mm.
I felt, oh, wow, that sounds good. Because when you don't have hope, you are looking for hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now suicide is one way or an avenue that provides hope. It provided hope for me. And so one of my teachers when I was doing my IT told us, make Google your friend. So Google has been my great friend. So I went to Google a way to die.
Mm.
And so Google didn't just give me one way, it rechanneled me to 1,000 ways. And so I was
To kill yourself.
yes. So I got those episodes called 1,000 Ways, and I tell you, I watched all of them. I was trying to validate the thoughts, and also something else. I wanted to see how I can die without feeling much pain. And also, I didn't want to die when my face is so folded because of pain. So I was asking myself, is maybe there a way where you can still die and you're still maybe smiling, or something of that sort. I was so curious about the death and the processes, and at some point I felt I'm ready. So it's like I remember it was a Wednesday, and I knew now on Thursday I'll be dead. By Thursday around 2 p.m., I'll be in KU, not university, but the morgue. I could see the pictures very clear. I could see my mom cry. The friend who denied me money, I could see him. He's there pretending he's feeling pain, and then let him feel it. Anyway, he didn't give me the money. I could see all that. Yeah, the guys who called me because it was a lot of money when I was doing tenders. It was in form of millions. Huh? And those guys, and they didn't care. They weren't even anywhere to listen. And I saw myself like tomorrow at around 2 p.m. this thing will be over. And see, I was still born again. And around the same period, I had a voice from the Lord ask me, so what are you killing? What exactly are you killing? Because you have a spirit. Actually, you are a spirit. And this is just a host. The body is just a host. It's just a temple. So when you kill the temple, have you killed the Isaac? Have you killed yourself really? And the answer was a no. That when I kill myself, it's a scam. It's basically a scam that I've died. Yet, like I'm going home. It's like I think I'm leaving home, but I'm going home actually where it's permanent. And when I get there, it's so unfortunate that there is no reverse gear. I cannot go back because I've destroyed the temple of the Holy Spirit. So now it's eternal loss. It's eternal scam. And I was like, so God, give me a purpose and a reason as to why I'm going through this pain. Is there any other hope? And so God told me that I'm with you. I know what you're going through. I know the pain, and I will see you to the end. I want to use you to tell the whole world that suicide is a scam, and it's just a lie from the devil. The devil lies to us, and the climax of the lies is suicide. The greatest lie the enemy could ever do to a human being is suicide. And God was like, I'm preparing you so that you can go and tell other people that it's well. So God promised me that He's going to heal me because I was sick. I had ulcers, I had frequent headaches, I had flu. I think I had a flu for 2 years consecutive. Yeah, I had flu. So the Lord promised me that I will heal you and I will restore you, I will strengthen you, and I will set you on a firm foundation. And so that's when I took my laptop and I wrote this topic. I never knew I was writing a book. I just started writing what I'd had, and I started writing like my ideal me. I started reconstructing my thoughts, positive thinking, hope. I now got hope because if I'll be a counselor, if I'll be a psychologist in future, then this pain is important. If I'll write a book and then it will save other people, then this pain is important. Yeah. So it's when I found purpose and meaning in life that I started living, and that's how I went back to school. Because I had a BSc in IT and I had another diploma because I've been going to high schools and the likes. Yeah. So I applied for a master's in psychology. I was specific in the area of emotions and thoughts. That's in an area called positive psychology. So I really studied. I read a lot of books. I went to the university. I read a lot, and I built up the hope. I built up the optimism. I healed, by the way. Even the ulcers was completely gone. I don't have any trace of ulcers in me. The last time I had flu, I think it was 10, yeah, because the Lord healed me. Yeah, so that has been my journey. That's how I became a psychologist. That's how I even met Moffat. And there's a book I was reading. It's called The Flip Side. That's the flip side of the pain. So God has restored me. Even the cars that were auctioned, God brought them back. Not the same ones, but different ones. Yeah, the money that was stolen, the businesses that collapsed, God brought them back, and He's still restoring me even up to now. I'm still in the process. I can't say I'm 100%, but I'm still in the process. I'm still in the journey. Yeah.
Wow, that's literally why I hear so many people say that your pain has purpose.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
may not know, but then it has purpose.
Yeah.
And maybe even as we go on, now that's maybe one scenario in which, people are led towards suicidal thoughts. And maybe in your experience, Moffat, what are some of the other ways or rather things that lead people towards suicidal thoughts?
Thank you, Beatrice. It is indeed, I always like listening to Isaac.
Yeah.
And it is amazing that you guys called us here not knowing that we know each other.
Oh, you do?
We know each other. I'm the one who launched this book of his.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Suicide, let me say mental illness, because suicide is one symptom
Yeah.
of mental illness. And you have asked a very, interesting question on what could be other sources of suicide. And I would want to start by saying nobody in their state of mind, nobody in his or her right state of mind can commit suicide. Therefore, it goes without saying that suicide is as a result of an impaired reasoning, impaired judgment, because of the overwhelming pain that they are going through. I also want to define suicide as a method that people use to try and cope. It is an unhealthy way of coping. In other words, this person is running away from an overwhelming feeling of pain. In fact, if you are to find somebody who is at the verge of committing suicide and you start discussing the suicide with them, you'll be surprised to hear from them how they dread dying. They don't like dying. Nobody wants to die. But they feel like, because of the impaired reasoning and judgment, they feel like that is the only way to end their pain. And therefore, we say suicide is a permanent method or approach of solving a temporary problem. Because when you get overwhelmed and when you feel like there's nothing left for you and you feel like God is so far away, you feel like that is the only way through which you can numb yourself completely against the pain that you are feeling. And therefore, suicide is not just mental illness, allow me to use that term, to a large extent is in as much as, research has it that there can be traces in our genes. There are people that we say are genetically predisposed to matters, mental illness and suicide. But to a very large extent, Beatrice, suicide and mental illness is in the social realm, not so much into biological realm. And that is why you are hearing Isaac saying something happened to him. Somebody robbed him of his money. So you again realize that there are some families who are not able, because mental illness is a very subtle disease. Not many people are able to know that somebody is mentally unwell, and therefore they think ni kujifanya. There is somebody who was with us the other day, and you realize that people lack empathy. Sometimes my heart bleeds when I see people who are suicidal on social media saying that they want to kill themselves, and then you see the comments. You can just go ahead. When you think you are the only person. So people have not yet been able to understand the deception or the way this disease is subtle. And therefore, it starts in a very funny and, small way. Let's say, for example, experiencing low self-drive, something that you loved doing. You feel like creativity is not there again. Sometimes you feel like people do not understand you. You become highly irritable. Somebody who used to love doing some things, all of a sudden they slow down. Maybe you loved sports and all of a sudden you just slow down on it. You lack even energy, even to wake up in the morning and go to the bathroom and take shower. You feel like you just want to be in bed. You feel like you want to withdraw. All of a sudden you become extremely withdrawn. Somebody who was very extroverted, all of a sudden they shut down. Those are some of the very early signs that we can look at and say something is not right. Then as it continues, you realize that things begin to escalate. Somebody again who was quiet, all of a sudden they become talkative. This is now what we begin to call in psychiatric terms, pressure of speech. Somebody who was quiet, all of a sudden they begin to really talk and talk and talk and talk. Or on the other side, somebody who was so talkative, all of a sudden they become quiet, and they begin to have, slowed or slurred motor abilities. This is now what we call slow of speech. Somebody begins to anaongea pole pole, slowed motor abilities, taking this glass of water. By the time it leaves that table to the mouth, it takes forever. That tells you that that person is really sick.
Yeah.
And this is now where we say that somebody is depressed. And this, I can say, suicide is as a result of untreated depression. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for that. And, I love that you've opened our eyes to the many ways in which people can also identify.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just ignore, even from children, you're like, this is just normal. But then, kumbe ni depression in a kick in, and you just have no idea.
Yeah.
And maybe you can also let us know, Isaac. I believe that again, anyone listening to us today may be wondering, so what are some of those practical ways that picked on to let go of the suicidal thoughts? Were there any practical, ways, things you would do maybe every day or something of the sort that led to you, getting completely free from the thoughts?
Oh, getting free, like being free from the thoughts. Yeah. I must say that there are two phases. The phase where you really want to validate the thoughts so that you die. But now, after the hope, that it's kind of assurance that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
There's actually, the Bible tells us to be transformed in our thinking.
Yeah.
And not to be conformed. Yeah? And that self-awareness has been very critical.
Okay.
Because I realize that there are so many lies which look as if they are the truth. Deception is something that seems as if it's the truth, and it's very difficult to differentiate.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so close to the truth. Yeah? Because, like, I remembered one thought is that before I bought the vehicles and the businesses and the likes, yeah, I'd come from a humble background, very humble background, yeah, and I had worked my way out to earn what I had, and now the thoughts had come that I'm a failure, I will be poor. That fear of poverty was really hitting on me, and yet when I was a child, I really thought I should really work hard so that I ran away from struggles and poverty and the like. But now when things were bad, I'm thinking like, no, this is going to last forever. I mean, destiny has it on me that I'll be forever a poor man. But now I thought like, I'll rise above. Anyway, I didn't even have the money before, and even now I'll work it out. Just the way I worked it out then.
Right.
Now I'm actually even older and I have got more ability. I've got more experience. Now I'll work it out. I'll push it. So I started thinking good thoughts about myself. I started seeing possibilities. And if you read this book, you'll find that I was talking about hope. Like there's a chapter here that is saying my experience with hope. Yeah. My encounter with faith. Like I knew that I'll make it.
Wow.
That faith, I believed, because the other thought that was working against my faith was telling me it's over.
Yes.
But here I am, and I'm like, no, I'm only 27 years, and I will make it. I mean, there's a lot of time left for me to be here on earth. Yeah. So I had an encounter with faith. I saw that promise. I saw my end. I saw a great tomorrow. I saw a big future. I saw the cars restored. I saw myself become a psychologist. I saw myself healed, and I stuck to that.
Yeah.
I remember one day God told me that you'll be very rich. And yet, I had borrowed, I was very poor. So just as I'm believing I'm rich, I see a phone call from the bank, and they want to threaten me again. That they are going to come for something else. So I'm like, which thought do I believe? Because now the Lord is telling me it's going to be okay. Again, this is the reality.
Yes.
The reality is that the bank is not yet done with me. But I'm hearing another voice that I'm rich.
Mm-hmm.
So which one do I believe? So I started thinking faith,
Right.
and I stuck to that. There were so many thoughts that were knocking my head, telling me otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sick, just like I'm feeling that I'm healed, but I cough. I cough so hard. The flu is just multiplying again and again. I remember one day I was like, dawa ya moto ni moto. Let me go for swimming and see whether this flu will go. I went and jumped into a swimming pool,
Mm.
and the flu multiplied like times
Oh.
10 or times 20. Yeah. That's when I knew dawa ya moto sio moto. So now I'm sick. How do I believe that I'm healed?
Yeah.
So I kept telling myself, I started speaking to myself. I started speaking to my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I believed in God because at some point I had doubts with God. I thought there's no God actually. Because where was He when I was going
Yeah.
through all the struggles?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saved. There's a day I tried to backslide. I told God from today I'm going to back. It was a Sunday. I've gone to backslide. And how will I backslide? I've gone to drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And went to a club, but I didn't drink. Somehow I was unable. And I saw the guys in the club were really having fun. I remember the song. They were singing like life ni fupi na mimi sijifungi. And then I'm like, mbona mimi najifunga? Yeah, I was in the car watching those guys dance and have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at some point, as I've written in one of the topics here, that God was hurting when I was hurting.
Oh, wow.
It's called God was hurt by my painful heart. So I thought God was seated somewhere in the heavens on his very big seat, laughing at me and seeing the pain. Yeah, until I realized he he was the only friend who really cared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote about the weeds and the wheat. That when the weeds attack the wheat,
Mm-hmm.
they are not just, it's not about the wheat, but it's about the farmer who is the owner of the wheat. So when I'm attacked, it's not about me, it's about him. It's about the Father who made me. So when I'm failing, God is failing. When I'm hurting, God is hurting. So God started revealing in me some truths about himself.
Yeah.
And he reassured me the love. And so I started thinking right. I moved away from the emotional thoughts to now rational thinking, where I was now seeing things as God's system
Yeah.
and in a thoughtful way. Get, yeah. So it was a long process. There are so many thoughts. They're here that needed the transformation,
Yes.
which they did. That's why I'm the Isaac I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just reminded me of something I had. I think it's from one of Joyce Meyer's books that says the battlefield of the mind,
Yeah.
because your mind is like the devil's battlefield.
Yeah.
When he attacks your thoughts, he literally attacks everything.
Yes.
And maybe moving on, because now you've mentioned a really important point of changing your thought process and declaring even those words practically. And I mean, that's a really good way to just turn your thinking, because again, unajua hizo thoughts, the more they continue haunting you and haunting you, the next thing is you're believing them and you're almost speaking them into reality.
Yeah.
But then when you change your thoughts, you literally change the whole trajectory of how you're thinking.
Yeah.
So that's really good. And maybe Moffat can shed light on just ways in which or rather, when even dealing with people who have these suicidal thoughts or have even attempted suicide, what are some of the ways that you get down to in order to bring them out, the steps?
Thank you. Number one, I will want to say that, like I started by saying, suicide is a very subtle disease. And when families realize that their loved ones are changing, and there's something I forgot to say, Beatrice. Did you know that even giving away, when you see your brother, your sister giving away their prized possessions, that can as well be a sign, a symptom of mental illness. Then somebody all of a sudden becoming overly preoccupied with matters death. And sometimes even speaking very coded language that very soon you I'm going to news about me are going to hit the news headlines, or I'll go away, I'll go on a safari, and you look for me. These are some of the things that people need to look at. And when people realize that somebody is unwell, they are not supposed to go away from where they are. As a matter of fact, I also want to say that mental illness is an illness like any other. And I'm using mental illness deliberately because depression and suicide is right inside there.
Yeah.
People need not to go away from their loved ones or from people. The other thing that we can help people to get out of this illness is to know how to engage them.
Right.
Avoid engaging them in heated arguments, because you realize that people, because of thinking that the patient is, ni kujifanya, you realize that sometimes engaging them in heated arguments and stuff like that, sometimes even being very rough with them. I've seen people even, beating and slapping people. I've seen people being tied with the ropes. They are being taken to hospital or to the police. And when I see that, I really feel sad. So we need to be closer to them. We need to allow them to, because there's another myth that goes around that mentally sick people are always dangerous. And that is not true.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I have interacted with the people who, when the society see them behaving funny, and I go close to them, and people are wondering, how are you talking with them? You know, I know I've had a case where, somebody was looking so violent to people, and I knew this person, and I knew the kind of things that they love. So I remember telling them, "Can I take you for some nyama choma somewhere?" Because I knew they loved nyama choma.
Right.
And we went and we had nyama choma, and then I remember telling this person, can I take you somewhere so that we can talk to somebody that I know? And of course, at the back of my mind, I knew I'm taking them to hospital.
Yeah.
And I had communicated with the hospital, and then I was able to take them in, so they are able to actually reason with you.
Yes.
But sometimes we come with a lot of brutality, to these people. Sometimes we even label them, using some backstreet language, ni mwenda, amechizi, stuff like that. And these people, they have a way of feeling rejected.
Yeah.
And therefore, one of the ways of helping a mentally sick person is trying to be close to them. And Jesus himself is a good example of, and he healed all diseases, mental illnesses included.
Yes.
So I think going closer to where they are, trying to create an environment of not judging, because a mentally ill person hates, and they are actually made to feel bad about, anytime they feel like they're being judged. And you hear them saying, nobody understands me.
Yes.
In fact, we need to come with a very non-judgmental language to them. We also need to show empathy. Jesus is a great example of, that empathy and listening to them. And most importantly, knowing the available resources where we can take them. Not so long ago at the Kenya Counseling and Psychological Association, we had a symposium where we were talking about the available referral pathways. We were calling it National Dialogue on Mental Health. That when people are sick, when they come to us even in church, they come to us even as pastors, at what point are we able to know that this person is not okay? At what point do we know, in as much as we need to pray for them, we can also take them to hospital? I remember one time a case being brought to me in one of the many home fellowships I have ever been. And somebody was telling me, we have prayed for this person. and these things are not going away.
Yeah.
And they are saying that they are seeing people and we cannot see them, and we have ran back to them to pray for them. And I remember telling them that I would want to meet such a person, and of course referred the person to a psychiatrist. And I want to say here, it is God who gave doctors wisdom and knowledge to be able to actually reveal the sovereignty of God, even through our healing that come through our doctors. And as a matter of fact, I also like saying that patient, the moment the doctor prescribes medicine, a psychiatrist prescribes medicine, and they are given, and they are able to be reinstated to their normal functioning, they are actually able to hear God better. So the whole question of taking them to hospital is so paramount, and people need not to ignore.
Yeah.
I remember when that person was brought to me, I referred to him to a psychiatrist, and there was given some medicine. He was, they were stable. And they were able now to realize, kumbe, I was sick. Because another thing about mental illness, the person who is sick does not know that they are sick. That is why when you tell them that you want to take them to hospital, they even become violent, and they will tell you, I'm not sick. Because, mental illness, they do not feel pain anywhere. It's only that their way of reasoning, judgment, has been impaired.
Yeah.
The way they think, the way they are able to, you will hear them saying that they are hearing voices. When somebody, becomes, begins to have what we call delusions, they are able to hear voices. There are some delusions we call persecutory delusions, where you hear them saying, somebody is after me. There is someone who wants to kill me.
Yeah.
And they can literally feel it. But those are delusions. And sometimes when you take them to hospital, they can be given medicine, and they are able to stabilize, and they can actually hear God better. They can even be able to pray objectively and pointing out their needs to God.
Yeah.
So I think we shouldn't be the people who are putting them away, putting them down, labeling them names and all manner of things. So we should be there to support them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really good, because I remember Isaac mentioning that Ananunua V8 and he actually needs help. So sometimes it's really important to be there for them. And I think even Jesus, just really showed that. Even we are told that he wept, meaning, yes, he had the power to save, but then he was willing to get in tune with the emotions of Mary and Martha. So, viewers, we are going to be taking a really short break, but once we get back, we're going to be talking about the outer side of my guest today. So please do not go far.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.
All right, welcome back. The conversation is really, really awesome, and I'm definitely enjoying every minute of it. So, with me is Isaac Kamal, who has survived suicide and has an inspiring journey of overcoming suicide. And not just that, he also has a book that lets you know, the practical ways in which he also, you know, got involved with and also embraced through his healing journey. And we also have Moffat Cargo. He's a psychologist and also a marriage and family therapist. So, welcome once again. I
Asante.
think now it's time to talk about these amazing books that you guys have. Maybe we can start with Isaac. Maybe you can tell us the deception behind suicide. When somebody reads this book, what do you want them to get from it?
Yeah, so when I wrote this book, yeah, in psychology, there's by then I had not even done advanced psychology. It's
Yeah.
what we call CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, where there's transformation of our minds, yeah. And when I read the book, because by then, actually, after I wrote it, I had to read it again and send to a person to tell me, did I really write something good, or is it my depression that was at work? You know,
Yeah.
because you can be so afraid of writing when you are depressed, and then you write all your hallucinations and the likes. But when I read it, yeah, I realized that God helped me to help my reader to be transformed. And the transformation we need is a transformation of thoughts, like you said, yeah? Because every battle was in the mind, and every struggle that I experienced in my body, the flus, the ulcers, was as a result of thoughts. Yeah. Like, for example, when I talk about software redesigned, I'm talking about it's in chapter 9. I'm talking about that transformation of thoughts and the process that takes you go through for transformation, because you can see there's a battle between conformation and transformation, and it's highlighted in Romans 12 from verses 1 to 4, where the Bible tells us not to be conformed but to be transformed. So there's a very huge battle to be conformed. For instance, due to our childhood experiences,
Yeah.
there are some thoughts that have developed in us, and they have become part of our lives, and yet they are neither here nor there. Let me give an example. Yeah. Me, I don't slaughter chicken, because one day while I was quite young, I was given chicken by my mom to slaughter. But one thing she didn't tell me is that I need to work on the knife, the sharpness of the knife.
Oh, wow.
And so I pulled the head and I started cutting. Now my dad was very strict, yeah, and my dad could shout and everything would run away. And as I was still struggling to cut, when my dad said very funny, please run for your life. Eh? It wasn't funny at all. Eh? The next thing that would follow is a heavy slap. So as I was still cutting the neck, my dad shouted very funny, and he was so annoyed by me, and he started coming towards me. And so me, I ran away. I just dropped off the chicken, and so it also ran away with the head that was hanging there. And so all of us were running. The chicken, myself, and dad were running. And so I grew really fearing to slaughter a chicken. Yeah. Until lately, when my wife, I don't know what happened to her, she brought a live chicken that I slaughtered, and I was so scared. Eh? after all those years.
Yes,
But
yeah.
somehow we were able to work on it. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, as we were growing up, there are some experiences that have really shaped our thoughts.
Yeah.
But this book is challenging those thoughts. For example, I was told I'm foolish. And every time I try to solve a problem, I always refer to the words that were spoken against me. So all those are thoughts that were formed. So this book is a transformational book where people will start challenging the current existing thoughts that are actually lies.
Yeah.
Actually, most of them are just lies. Yeah.
That's
For example, when I thought that I'm a good for nothing, I would feel a lot of shame and I would blame myself so much. But I realized I wasn't helping myself. Yeah. So it's a book that is really helping us to find the truth. Because when I talk about the deception, if we are I'm tackling the deception, then I'm tackling the deception with the truth.
Yeah.
Like, let me talk of a chapter here called The Last Man in the Line of Defense, as I finish this. That one day I was really beating myself, but God gave me a revelation that, you know, some years back, I used to be a goaler.
Yeah.
I was the digger of our team,
Okay.
and I used to arrest the balls, very well. And sometimes I used to do very well, but at some point, like I remember one day I hit the ball so hard, and it just landed to the opponent who was so close, and he came and scored. Yeah, and so I was saying, in the last man in the line of defense,
Yeah.
we are the people to defend ourselves.
Right.
Because almost everyone is against us. The devil is against us. Even the mosquitoes are biting us. So many things you just find in our lives, the economy, there are challenges with money, there are challenges in the country, there are challenges back at home. And I realized I was really beating myself.
Right.
I was so hard on myself. I was guilty. I was blaming myself. I was hating myself. And when I realized there's no one to defend me besides me, that is when I started growing in love with myself. I started treating myself. I forgave myself because I had done a lot of mistakes. Yeah. And even until today, I usually take myself for an out. Yeah. And not my family, but myself. And, I go and buy some good food,
Yeah.
some nice drinks. When I achieve something like, the writing of this book, I tap myself and I say, Isaac, congratulations. You've done,
Wow.
you've done very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, it's a transformational book to transform the mind from the
Yes.
lies to the truth.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow, that's really, really good. I'm so glad, you've been able even to bring that out because again, all we need to do is change how we think.
Yeah.
And from there we have it all.
Yeah.
And let me just go through the comments or rather, people who are following us online just to see. I see Henry Mutavi saying great conversation. Duncan Joroge saying wonderful debate. Muturi pia anasema what an inspirational story. Jane, wonderful lessons on mental health. I see Jenny Carson, hallelujah in the highest. And pia naona Faith Njenga saying Mr. Isaac, sir, we love you and God bless you. Muturi anasema Mr. Kamau is my mentor. Okay. Emily Bosibori, so educative. Kariu, Sarah, thank you so much, each and everyone who is tuned in. And maybe our time is really not on our side, but maybe I wouldn't want us to finish this session without maybe Moffat getting us to know about the importance of counseling with anyone, who is dealing with, suicidal thoughts. What is the importance of seeking counseling and seeking that kind of help?
Yeah, counseling is very, very important, Beatrice, because we usually say that even if somebody is seeing a psychiatrist, so that they can be stabilized in the way they are thinking, it is also good to have them, go through counseling.
Yeah.
The reason for this is because suicide, like we said, is when a person is running away from something.
Right.
And therefore, suicide is an equivalent of alcohol, taking drugs. All those are unhealthy ways of coping. The only difference is that now suicide is sort of, it comes with some permanence, as in once you die, you are dead. Therefore, counseling is good because it helps this person to be taken through by a counselor on some other better ways of coping with what they are going through. And we usually say, when somebody goes through such a traumatizing or such a painful experience, you find that people sometimes do not understand. Like you are hearing Kamau saying here that at some point he said to himself, there is no God. And we usually say there are some moments when somebody can feel like he has been let down by the family, by himself, and by God himself. Because there comes a time in our lives when we feel like God is so far away. And it is human, it is okay to feel that way. But then that is not the truth. They need somebody to walk with them without judging them.
Yeah.
It is so important. And Jesus has demonstrated in the book of John chapter 4, when he spoke with the Samaritan woman without judging her.
Yeah.
And you know, some of us, we would only approach such a person by telling her how bad she is. She's the talk of town as far as prostitution is concerned. But Jesus, being God himself, he never approached that woman from that point of view. He began with a very simple conversation. Give me a drink, and then go and bring me your husband. And him being God, he knew that the woman did not have a husband, but he found it wise to start that way. That is also what happens in counseling, where somebody will not be judged, where somebody will be understood for who they are.
Yes.
And then, most importantly, a family is so key, is so important. Even it is so primary, because we say a family is where it is a school. Actually, even the methods of coping, many times they are learned from a family. And that is why you realize if children grow up seeing their parents slapping one another when there's a conflict, they tend to think that that is the way to resolve a conflict. And that is how that pattern is passed down. And it is the reason I wrote this book, Beatrice,
Yeah.
Breaking Transgenerational Family Patterns, because families give us a script. I call them family scripts. And sometimes the script that you have been given by the family, I heard Isaac talking about how, he thought he would make money and become, somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what it is that he learned about money making in his family of origin.
Yeah.
Because life will always throw at us things that we cannot hack.
Yeah.
And when they come with so much conflict with our family script.
Yeah.
It negates what we have learned
Sure.
from our families of origin.
Yes.
And if that does not happen, unless somebody goes to someone who is going to work with them as a counselor, you realize that chances are we continue passing down unhealthy ways of coping. That is why even you hear people say, you should not marry from that family because those guys, they go nuts,
Yeah.
And it is because maybe the interactions in terms of relationships in that family,
Yes.
they are very unhealthy. And therefore, like we said, depression and mental illness and suicide, it is in the social realm. And family being one of them,
Yeah.
the way those people have seen, and they continue passing down that.
Yes.
We need to break those chains. Thank you.
Wow. It's a generational thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, time is far much spent. But maybe even as we conclude, Isaac, maybe you can just encourage someone who is watching today.
Yeah.
And maybe they're at the verge of suicide. They,
Yeah.
contemplated it, they're thinking about it. From your own experience on from just how you saw God restore you.
Yeah.
How would you encourage someone who is probably going through what you went through right now?
Okay. So one, I've realized. Okay, thank you, Beatrice, viewer. One thing I've learned about life is chapters. We are in chapters, yeah.
Yeah.
So you might be in chapter 2, and then your book goes all the way to chapter 100, and then you're feeling like this is the end of the chapters, yeah. So there are so many chapters in our lives, but we really need to come back to ourselves.
Yeah.
You remember the prodigal son, after he did all he did, he first came back to himself and then to God. Yeah, so with the help of God, we are able to come to self-realization, and then we are able to come to terms with God. Yeah. And so I thank God for the depression I had, yeah? Because I'm the Isaac I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many people have been saved by my testimony and by the book. Just the other day, a girl stopped me. She said, "Thank you for writing the book," and I didn't even know her.
Yeah.
So she told me she read it. She was about to kill herself, but she was restored completely. So all I can say is that you might be in chapter 2, and your life really starts in chapter 5.
Yeah.
You get, yeah, and then you end it at chapter 2. So there's a lot of life and hope ahead of us.
Yes.
And when we are going through the kind of challenges I was going through, we need to find God in the challenges. One of the greatest challenges was not having God in the challenges. Yes, I'm saved, but I'm saying there's no God. there's no hope. It's like I'm giving up. Yeah. So there's just a lot of hope, and life is so good.
Yeah.
And we'll face trials, but the Lord said, "I will be with you. You, even in the waters and in the fire, I
Yes.
will be with you." So God wants to be with us even in the fire. He is with us even in the waters, but mostly He wants us to find Him in the fire. This book cannot be written when I'm in a hotel eating chicken and when life is so good. I come from the best of families in the world, from the royal kings and the likes. Yeah, things have been good. I've never been depressed. You cannot write this kind of a book. You need to get in the fire.
Yeah.
So God uses our pain,
Mm-hmm.
God uses our failures to build us
Yes.
and to make us the people that He wants us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So just be encouraged. One of the things, finally, I'll say that you need to go back to God. You need to arise. You need to come back to yourself and come back to God. You need to start praying. Maybe you had stopped praying. You need to start praying. You had stopped believing. You need to start believing.
Yes.
You had lost your faith. You need to start building up the faith again.
Yes.
And the life ahead is much greater than the life that you had in the past. You only have to cross to that other chapter. There are seasons and times, and no season is permanent. You finish one season successfully, you get to the other season.
Yeah.
And that's what I can say. There's a lot of hope, and
Yes.
life is so good.
Yeah.
It's a gift from God.
That's true.
Yes.
That's very true. Wow. We say the present is a gift. That's why it's called present.
Yeah.
Yes, and maybe more parts. You can, as we wind up, maybe you can give a word of encouragement also to someone who is watching, from you being where you are, as a therapist or someone who has also seen success stories. What can you say to someone who is struggling?
Number one thing I will want to say that we need to realize the centrality of God in everything that we go through
Yes.
in this life. And it is important for us to ask ourselves, what is it that God is saying? I also like saying that we are living at a time when God is being so much misrepresented that we only preach the God of good times.
Yeah.
You are blessed, diseases are not your portion, you drive cars with dimples. You remember that? He knows what I'm talking about. Now, and I like saying that
Yes.
if you do not know, if you only know the God of good times, then you don't know God. You are yet to know the God of bad times.
Yeah.
Or if you only know about bad things, you are yet to know the God of good times.
Yeah.
Because He is right inside there. Even when we feel low, it is important for us to speak out and seek help. And actually seeking help is not weakness. And especially for men, I have written a chapter for men here, chapter 10. We have been, again, and especially being an African men, where we have been given an extremely distorted definition of masculinity. Being that masculine is not, you are not supposed to, seek out for help. Seeking help is weakness as a man. And I like saying it is actually not weakness, it is strength. Every time I see a man stepping out to seek help, I feel so happy because I know the Bible says that a man, if you look at Proverbs 23:22, honor your father who gave you life. And therefore it goes without saying that men give life. We are a source. A man is a source. So when a source is destroyed, a whole generation goes down the drain. And therefore, stepping out to seek for help, asking people to assist you, is not weakness. And we should not shy away from actually helping people who come to us, wanting us to assist them.
Yes.
I have seen success stories, and I also want to say that it is also important for somebody to know, even if you are in that state of despondency, there is always a personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Even as counselors and the families try to help you out of what you are going through. Because again, if somebody is not careful, you might realize there are some people who begin now to have dependency syndrome, and they will want to start using their diseases to justify what they are saying. Their conditions to justify what they are saying. So there is also a personal responsibility. If a counselor is working with you, it is also important for somebody to know that the buck stops with me. That I have been shown the way, I have been asked to try this and that.
Yeah.
There is that personal responsibility.
Yes.
There is also the aspect of inviting God into our situations,
Yes.
because sometimes God can take us through situations like we find so many cases, and we need to know what God is saying.
Yes.
And it is not good for us to walk alone. I also like using Jesus as an example. The difference between Jesus and many other biblical characters, and especially in the Old Testament, Moses, Elijah, talk of Jonah. These guys, they always walked alone.
Yeah.
Unlike Jesus, Jesus walked with the 12 disciples. And amongst the 12, the Bible talks of the 3 disciples, Peter, John, and James.
Yeah.
And he would always carry them. As a matter of fact, during, when he was just about to be crucified, we see him with the 3 disciples telling them, "Tarry with me here.
Yes.
Pray with me, because I am in this state and I feel like, I'm crashing. Pray with me." And it also goes ahead to say, amongst the 3, the Bible says, the disciple that Jesus loved most.
Yes.
So I like saying it is important in our relationships to single out some people who can walk with me. I usually tell men, every man needs a man,
Oh.
to be able to know you can be vulnerable to them. You are able to tell them how you are feeling. Don't be like Elijah. Elijah was suicidal. Jonah was suicidal. They decided to die.
Yeah.
Moses became highly irritable. He threw away the commandments. But Jesus went all the way to the cross.
Yeah.
And he won. Number 1, because of God. And number 2, he had even people. If Jesus was God himself and he could allow himself to be vulnerable to some other men, how about us? How much more do we need to be vulnerable?
Yes.
Asante.
Oh, wow. That was really powerful. And time is really not on our side. My producer is like, yo. But anyway, maybe as we conclude, you can just let us know very quickly where we can get the books, and then we wind up. So where do
go
we
first.
get? Yes.
Oh,
let's
okay.
start with Deception.
Yeah, so if you want it online, my website is www.globalpsychologysupport.com. You can purchase it online. If not that, I can I give the number so that we have an office in Nairobi.
Yeah.
We have an office in Ruiru. So we do distribute them countrywide. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's 0724 382 346.
All right.
So you can even reach out for help. Reach out for even psychologists have been they do seek help as well
Okay.
on how to tackle some of these challenges.
Right.
I'm also a trainer as well. So my number is available
All
so that we
right.
can be able to, win over this kind of challenge.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. I have a website called
Yes.
Mushauri, moffatmushauri.com. My social media name is
Okay.
Mushauri.
All right.
And then I also have a page, Mushauri Therapy Hub. And on my website, people can talk to me, and we are able to organize how they can get the book.
Yes.
Asante.
Oh, wow. This has been an amazing, wholesome session. Enjoy, learned so much, and I'm so glad that you guys came through. And to our viewers, I do hope that you've been overly transformed by this amazing episode that we've had today. I mean, one of my takeaways is that, the only way to get to the other side of the fire is through it. You cannot go back. You have to keep moving even when it gets difficult. And please do seek help. It's a sign of bravery. It's a sign of courage. You seeking help means that you're thinking about the generations to come, your children, your family, the people that God has gifted you with. My name is Beatrice Watare, and you've been watching Health Check. I wish you a good night.